Hi folks, John with the Wingman115 channel. Thanks so much for checking in. I'm really happy and excited to be out here today doing another Gauntlet video for you folks. Now, today's video is on the Deer Creek Forge American trade knife. Now, if folks have followed along on the channel, you know that I'm part of the Gauntlet. This is a knife that has made its way through a couple other channels. And if you follow along on thegauntlet.tv, that's our website. It'll list all the channels that have featured this knife. So it's kind of fun to see how this knife fares throughout all the different phases of its travel. Now, the folks at Deer Creek Forge were nice enough to send an engraver along with this blade. So what we've done is kind of personalize this blade, and we've etched our logos into this blade, which will be sent back to Deer Creek Forge, who will fabricate a custom sheath for this, and then they're going to give it away to a lucky viewer out there. So you're going to want to follow along this knife in its travels through the Gauntlet, because this is going to be a really cool giveaway item. Now, without further ado, I'm going to cut away. We'll do a quick specs rundown. I'll do some practical application, and as always, I'll give you some final thoughts on this blade. You're not going to want to miss this, folks. Come along. Alright, the first thing I'm going to do is do some feather sticks with this blade. Now, the reason that I'm doing this is to kind of just give you an idea of how this blade performs. Now, this blade has a Scandi-Vex grind. So, a normal Scandi would have the edge go all the way down. The Scandi-Vex has just this micro bevel along the leading edge of the blade. Now, I'm really familiar with blades like this because if you follow along on the channel, I also did a review a couple years back of my Habilis bush tool, and I really like that blade. Now, a lot of people are in different camps about blade grinds. A lot of people like hollow grinds. They like flat grinds. They like convex. I'm not going to tell you which one is best. You basically have to make that decision for yourself based on, one, how you're going to use the tool, and just the regular ergonomics of your body and the mechanics. Remember, a knife is a tool, folks, so you need to find the right tool that's going to fit you and work best for what you're going to do, whether it's hunting, whether it's bushcraft, whether it's a survival blade, whether it's tactical. You need to really think about that when you're looking at a grind on a blade. Now, this American trade knife is made to be, one, a skinner, and two, a bushcraft blade, because that's what it was modeled on historically. Now, historically, let's talk a little bit about history on this blade. This blade is modeled after the early trade knives, and I would say a period of the mid to late 1700s to the mid 1800s, when fur trappers, predominantly beaver trappers, were in the colonies of New England, the Hudson Bay area, and then they slowly worked their way across the West. Now, these blades were originally fabricated way back in the day in England and in France, and they had that, quote, drop point design. Now, a little history lesson. A lot of those blades never came with handles, and I'll insert a photo here to kind of show that. Reason being was, one, it added to the cost of the blade, and a lot of folks took pride in making their own handles on their blade. They didn't feel that they wanted to spend their hard-earned money on something that they could do themselves. The folks at Deer Creek Forge have kind of stuck with that historical look and profile on this blade. And for me, I must say, because I like a Scandi-Vex grind, this knife works really, really good for me. It's just making just these onion skin, paper thin curls. Now, the blade comes with a really sharp 90-degree spine. It's made out of 1095 hard carbon steel. So as with 1095, you're going to have to respect it. It will corrode. So you're going to have to use some sort of treatment every time you use this blade. If you're using it on woods that have a lot of resins and such, it's going to put a patina on this blade, which I believe Deer Creek Forge has put on there. It kind of gives it a really old school historical look, and I'm really digging it. Let's cut away. I'm going to rough out a spoon, and then I'm going to attempt to rough cut that spoon out with this knife. And the reason that I'm going to do that is to kind of give you an idea of the ergonomics of the handle design, the palm swell, and just overall how well this blade is going to perform. Okay, first off, right off the bat, a disclaimer. I don't pretend to be a bushcrafter. I am a YouTube gear reviewer with outdoor skills, and I'm just out here playing around trying to figure out this blade, its ergonomics, and if it's going to work for you. Now, part of that is being able to chop with this blade, being able to cut with this blade. And a lot of these blades were used primarily for processing game. A lot of folks historically usually had multiple knives. They usually had a camp knife, one for cooking, they had one for skinning, and then one on their belt just for personal protection. Now, this blade would make, I believe, a great skinner because I like the sweep of that blade, and it makes it really nice for cutting. You can see this blade, of course this is soft wood too, you know, but it's doing a good job cutting through this pine. So as a chopper, this blade's working really well. And there's going to be folks that are going to say, hey, John, you're not doing this or that correctly. And you're probably right. But that's how you learn. I don't claim to be an expert. I don't believe anyone is, quote, an expert. We're all students still learning as we're going. But the only way to really test a knife out is if you do projects with it and practice your skills. Because like I said before, your knife is just a tool. Right off the bat, I'm feeling just a little bit of hand fatigue right back here on the pommel where it's starting to swell. Got to secure my table down a little bit better. It's my little bushcraft table that I come out with. Take off a little bit of this. Don't need that much. One, I want to see how well. Yeah, let's take it all the way off. There we go. Chop's pretty good. Not bad. I'm also doing this to see how well it's going to hold an edge. You can really learn a lot about a blade really quick by trying to do a project with it. One thing I'm learning right now, for me, in my hand shape, is that I'd like to see the handle just a little bit more refined. One observation I have to make is that the way that I'm gripping the handle, it's causing a lot of forearm fatigue, and a lot of that is, if you look at the handle, there's no palm swell there. And I think that the way that the pommel has that big swoop. Yeah, it fits really secure in your hand, but it has my ring finger and pinky stuck way out there. As a cutter, I love Scandi-Vex. I'm a fan of that. But this is how we take these knives out here and run them through the course to kind of give you an idea if this is going to match up for you. I know it's hard to tell on a video, but the idea of the Gauntlet is we try to use these blades and the items that we test differently throughout the channel. That way you see a wide array of tasks and skills being performed, and it just helps you make a better decision before you pull the trigger and purchase an item. So, do I have any mad carving skills? No. But one, I'm out here having fun. I'm learning as I'm going, and I'm able to test this blade out for you. Now, what I really wish I could have done was, if it had been deer season or we get a coyote, and be able to harvest an animal to be able to kind of process that animal, which I think this blade would do really good. And the reason being is it has that nice sweep in the blade, which would make for a very good skinner. It also has that drop point design, so you could get in there and do fine detailed cuts. But you could get in there and with a grip like that, work really well. Even come up like that and also be able to work this blade very nimbly, if that's a word. Might have just invented a new word, but just a way to get in there and do fine detailed processing of game. Okay, there's a rough cut of a spoon. It's not going to win any awards at any county fairs or any rendezvous, but sitting around a campfire at night, you just work on it, keep improving it. But we have the basic profile. And the reason I did that was I needed to learn if the ergonomics of this blade and its design was going to work for me. Now for some final thoughts and a rating on the Deer Creek Forge American Trade Knife. First off, I have to say that I love the material. I love the design. 1095 high carbon steel, that drop point design. I love the old school look of this blade. But there's a few caveats that come with that. One, I'm going to come up close real quick and show you. Now, the knife retails for about 99 bucks, but I don't know if it's because it's made its way through the Gauntlet or because the scales aren't stabilized, but they're uneven down here on the bottom. And I don't know if the camera will pick that up, and a little bit on top. So it looks like they may have to stabilize the wood just to get it from expanding and contracting based on the weather and such. But with that said, to me, that wouldn't be a deal breaker. I'm more concerned about, quote, the ergonomics of the handle. Now, some folks, if you have a large hand, if you have long fingers where you're able to wrap your ring finger and your pinky around there, then that pommel swell on the handle might work great for you. I know a lot of concerns were from other Gauntlet members that when they choked up, their fingers kind of almost touched the cutting edge of the blade. For me, that wasn't the case. But like I said, everybody, it's going to vary based on your hand design and how you hold a blade. But for me, the ergonomics are just a little bit off. And if you're going to do long, detailed carving projects or bushcraft projects, chopping worked great. The way the swell was, it fit right there. I had my index and middle finger. I was able to rock that blade and you're able to process. I know that this Scandi-Vex would just make an awesome food processing blade. Cutting meat, cutting potatoes, carrots, tomatoes, onions would work awesome. But what I would like to see in a blade, I would like to see maybe a little bit of palm swell, maybe this redefined, and maybe almost the same profile as right here, and just take that all the way, maybe a little more gradual, not a big sweep. I understand they may be trying to keep historically with the period. I'm not going to knock them for that. But me personally, as it is right now, this blade would not be for me. It's a great cutter, and for somebody who likes these style of blades, it's going to work great for you. It just doesn't work good for what I want to do. So that would have to be my opinion on this. If I had to rate it between 1 and 5, 1 being that it's a dumper, that it goes to the boneyard, 5 that it's a grand slam. Well, based on the handle design, everything else rocks, but the handle design, I'm just not a big fan of it. And the fact that the scales are just a little bit off, I have to give it 2.5 stars in the project. But for a custom knife, 99 bucks, I'd be on the fence. But for me, if they redefine this handle, then that would be a big difference to me. Folks, this is John with the Wingman115 channel. I invite you to follow this knife along on thegauntlet.tv. It's going to list all the videos in this series. I thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you on another video soon. Take care. This is Wingman out.